and I endorse what is occurring.
The time for this debate has expired. I call on Government Order of the Day number 1.
Appropriation 2012-13 Estimates Bill Committee stage.
I declare the House in committee for the consideration of the Appropriation 2012-13 Estimates Bill.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Chairman.
I'll tell you.
Borrowed his time to Tony Christmas. Well, at least he's got one.
Order. Good afternoon, honourable members. The kia ora tātou no reire te whare. Inga iwi, inga rio, inga hawewha. Tēnā koutou katoa. Honourable members, and my good friend, the Honourable Member Trevor Mallard. Thank you for the comments about my wonderful tie, Mr. Mallard. But anyway, thank you. Anyway, honourable members, the House is in committee on the Appropriation 2012-2013 Estimates Bill, and the standing orders provide for 8 hours of debate on the estimates. Each member may have no more than 2 speeches of 5 minutes on each vote. The estimates debate should be relevant to the government's current spending plans as contained in the estimates of appropriations. All votes are available for debate and will be called in order of seniority of ministers, commencing with the Speaker's votes. A compendium of the reports of select committees on the votes is available on the table. Right, the question is that vote audit stand part of the schedules.
Where's the Speaker? You can't have a minister with the chair when it's the Speaker. Where's the Speaker?
Those of that opinion will say aye.
Aye.
Those of the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that vote office of the clerk stand part of the schedules. Those of that opinion will say aye.
Aye.
Those of the contrary opinion will say no. The ayes have it. The question now is that the vote ombudsman stand part of the schedules. Those of that opinion will please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that vote Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment stand part of the schedules. All those in favour will please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that vote Parliamentary Service stand part of the schedules. Those of that opinion will please say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that vote Communications, Security and Intelligence stand part of the schedules. All those in favour please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that vote Prime Minister and Cabinet stand part of the schedules. Those that opinion will please say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question now is that vote Security Intelligence stand part of the schedules. All those in favour? I call the Honourable Member Stephen Browning.
Mr. Chair, the Greens are very, very concerned that the SIS effectively, and also for that matter the Government Communications Security Bureau, both go without decent surveillance themselves. They've got, in combination, fluctuating budgets that we have no idea what that fluctuation represents. And I'll start with, for example, in 2007 and 8, 73 million between those two agencies. The next year was 80 million, the next 97, 2010-11 was 110 million, last was 98.5, and this one we've got 100 million, the highest ever. And I have to wonder why that's being spent. Is that being spent to beef up Mr. Key's security or something? They then assume in 2013-14 they can go down to 94 and then 72 respectively. But, Mr Chair, we have no idea what that's actually being spent on. Anything else that comes through this House we can pull apart. There may be some small amounts that we can't actually get to grips on, but with these two agencies we have effectively nothing. So I do wonder what Mr Key and his spy friends, his close friends, his schoolmate friends that are now heading the spy agencies are doing with their extra millions. It'd be really good if the Prime Minister could come here and actually explain a little bit of what he's actually doing with his millions. How many millions are actually coming from the US or the UK towards their agencies that we spy so much for? And I'm thinking in particular out at Waihopai with the echelon system that connects in with the spying agencies of New Zealand. How much is the New Zealand taxpayer the sole contributor instead of the USA and UK's communication dredge? How much is spent on domestic surveillance with the SIS? I would think, in case others in the House don't realise, that the GCSB and the SIS are very closely linked, and so any discussion that verges back onto one agency to the other is totally on board. How much is spent on international surveillance? How much is spent when they're repairing the domes? How much is spent, as I say before, on the Prime Minister's surveillance and with his bodyguards or this, that, the other? There's a lot of crossover of agencies here, but we can't get down to it. How much is on capital expenditure? How much is on those people that are actually dedicated to peace and justice in New Zealand? How much is being spent surveilling them? How much was spent by the SIS working with the police on the Uruwera raid material?
It's in the estimates.
How much was spent this year? How much any year is the relevant part of this? We cannot get down, we cannot drill down in this because it's woefully inadequate and should not be presented in such a woefully inadequate way. I would wonder with the GCSB bit, how much was covered by insurance when the dome got ruptured by those that were dedicated to peace and justice? How much is spent on staff? How much on capital expenditure? Mr Chair, regardless of barracking in this House by those that seem to find it quite acceptable that people, including past members of Parliament, have been spied on by our agencies, that when we actually do get to find out what a spy is carrying in their bags, whether it's a Playboy and a pie or something of that nature, we've got nothing, we're getting nothing that shows what they actually do in substance for our taxpayers.
I call the